Oh, I was reading notes. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Well, good evening, everyone. It's Thursday. It's October 29th. It's 8 p.m. We're live. Welcome to the Conversations with the Stars. My name is Avery Saltzman.
And I'm David Eisner.
And we're the co-artistic directors of the Harold Green Jewish Theater Company. We had a special guest tonight, Patrick McKenna, but unfortunately, due to a family illness, Pat couldn't make it tonight. We hope to reschedule with him at a later date. But we have two fantastic guests for this evening. Dave, you want to tell our audience who are those fantastic, good-looking guests are?
Two handsome, talented people. I'm going to interview Avery, and Avery's going to interview me. Avery and I, we know each other way back from high school, junior high. We grew up in the same neighborhood.
Right.
And we're one of the few people from the neighborhood, I believe, that pursued a career in the business. What were some of the early influences that sort of sparked the idea that you wanted to be an actor? Plays or performances?
Well, I don't know if there was any thing. I always loved performing. I always loved being the hand, getting out there, being in front of an audience, and I think it was just a real natural progression. I mean, I had some seminal markings along the way, but I think it's something I always just loved doing. I mean, I loved all the old TV shows, and I loved musical theater. And my parents had a subscription to the Royal Alex, and so I went there as a kid. And the curtain. You know what my favorite time was? When the lights go down and the audience stops talking, and there's that silence where there's that collective thing with an audience before the lights come up and the curtain. And in those days, the Royal Alex had that curtain that went up,
right.
And the lights came on, and then you were transported into a different world. How about you, Dave?
You know what? I also loved acting as much as I can remember since grade 7. But around that time, I saw some real seminal movies that I really spurred me on. I remember seeing Midnight Cowboy, which came out in 1967, so I was 9 or 10. I loved that. I loved, I don't know if you remember, Ryan's Daughter with John Mills, who played the town fool.
Oh my God.
It just cut me to the core. And then Stanley Kramer did this very small movie. He's a brilliant director.
2001: Space Odyssey.
So yes, exactly. That's Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, Stanley Kubrick. Yeah. Stanley Kramer was.
Who I love too. 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Took us to a whole other
Yeah.
possibility, and that was remarkable. And so I did fall in love with that too. And then there was a small movie called Bless the Beast and the Children. I don't know if you ever saw that. About these misfits in camp. But little movies like that and performances, and growing up watching comedians like Don Knotts. Yeah. It's funny, I just wanted to mention Jerry Lewis, who I loved. I know was one of your favorites. But he was interviewed by Martin Scorsese, and Scorsese asked him, what is your inspiration, like with what gets you going? And he distilled it down very simply to just say, he noticed when he was inspired by movies, that they're having a wonderful time. And he said, I always had a wonderful time working. And that translates because he had a passion for it. And he loved it. And I think, and you must feel the same, whenever we get the chance to act, you just have a wonderful time.
Yeah.
And that transfers over.
Yeah, I think for young actors like us, and sometimes the great fun you have acting outweighs the stuff that you go through as a kid. You can escape for a bit. But talk about Jerry Lewis, weren't you? You were in that movie of the week where Sean Hayes from Will and Grace played Jerry Lewis, and you were in that movie.
The things are so weird the way that we're connected. And I'll talk about it with you too. I loved Jerry Lewis growing up, and then this was a movie about Martin and Lewis with Sean Hayes, and I got to play Lou Wasserman, who was the Universal head guy at Universal, who kind of at one point later in their careers sort of had to call them out, and I had several scenes with them. So that was a bit surreal. I remember very quickly being in my basement with these shoes that I painted white so they looked like they had spats with the black, and lip syncing to cabaret.
Wow.
Love Joel Grey, and and then I even did it in high school. And then we had Joel Grey at our theater for an evening. So those are fascinating things. What about, is there people you've dreamed of or admired and you got to meet them?
Well, I think I told you I had a bunch of auditions in New York, so I got to meet a lot of my idols like Elaine May and Nathan Lane and Mel Brooks and Peter Allen. But I had a chance and I met Lucille Ball. I think I told you this story. I was doing a show in Los Angeles. Was it Sunset Boulevard? I forget what show. I was doing a show in the Pantages. And opening night, they have these big galas, and in she walked. Well, it's funny what your mind plays tricks on you, because I only remember her from I Love Lucy when she was young, when she was in her 40s and vibrant, and then she walked into the room when she was in her 70s. Yeah. And my mind went, that can't be Lucille Ball.
No, shift. Yeah.
The shift, but that was very exciting. But I got to work with a lot of fun people over the years too. But I wanted to go back to you for a sec too. You talked about playing Lou Wasserman. You've also played some very famous people. You played Guggenheim. You were in the Titanic miniseries that filmed in Hungary.
That's true, for ITV.
Yeah.
I think Samantha has a picture of that. That was
wow.
It was a lot of fun. I got to go to Budapest, Hungary for 3 weeks. Never been to Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool.
And the actual ship was built in a water tank in Hungary?
It was remarkable. I mean, there was a huge water tank for when the rowboats were in there for the women that were saved. But there's a humongous ship that we played off of, and cameras all beside it. It was remarkable. They had the same tax advantages sometimes Vancouver gets in Europe. So that's why they filmed there.
And you also played Henry Morgenthaler in the Henry Morgenthaler story on CTV, didn't you?
I did. That was a wonderful experience. I got to meet him about 4 or 5 days prior to shooting. He came to shooting.
You're the one sitting down.
Yeah. He's a remarkable man for what he accomplished.
I mean, did he have a yin and yang with the people? Was he a liked man, or?
You know what? It's odd. I'll tell you, we were on set and he came to watch, and we were doing a scene where his
Can you explain to the audience who may not know who Henry Morgenthaler is, though?
Well, he helped put into law the abortion rights for women. Right. And it was not an instant thing. It was over years.
Right.
And he had a clinic, and he still has the clinic. He passed away a few years ago. So he was really at the forefront of gaining throughout Canada, step by step, the rights for women. So we were filming a scene with his brother. Who was he? He was a Holocaust survivor, and he was estranged from his brother.
Wow.
So this scene, Stuart Bick, who we're friends with,
was
in it, and we're filming this scene, and I hear crying off camera, and the director had to call cut. It was Henry Morgenthaler crying, seeing him talk to his brother in a way that he hadn't been able to. And so there would be that. And then, that same day he was on set, he'd be singing a French song in several languages with such joie de vivre. So he was full of emotion, full of passion. He took me to his clinic. People had worked with him for many, many years. It was just remarkable. My dad was a Holocaust survivor, so I got to incorporate my thoughts about that in playing him too, which was very interesting for me as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was
very cool. Yeah.
And you got to play, I think, at Covent Garden 3 times, playing Sancho.
Twice at Covent Garden. I did. A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum at Covent Garden, and I did Man of La Mancha at.
I love that.
Garden. And I got to do Guys and Dolls. It was the 50th anniversary of Guys and Dolls. I got to do that at Royal Albert Hall, and then I also did a concert at the Millennium Stadium in Wales and Cardiff.
Yes.
It was 70,000 seat.
Oh my God.
But they roped it off, so there were only 30,000 that night.
30,000. That's like an American.
It was unbelievable. I tell you.
What was that experience prior to going on?
I was standing behind the curtain. First of all, what was so odd about it was they had holding stations because it was a TV special for Showtime, so it was taped and it was live. So they had holding stations. So at the first half hour, you would walk to this place. Then in the next 10 minutes, you walk to a different place. Oh. So to make sure that everything's timed for the broadcast.
Right.
So when it would take you regularly 5 minutes to get to the stage, this took close to an hour. So as you're getting there, the nerves are building up, and then I'm standing behind the curtain, waiting for my turn, and my legs won't stop shaking.
Wow.
They're like this,
Literally, physically.
literally. And I go, how am I going to sing? I was going, but it's funny. The curtain goes up, the part they introduce your name, the curtain's part, the spotlight hits you, and then you're transported to a different world, and that's it.
You talk about that at the beginning about being transported. Same for an actor.
Yeah.
I think you're at one medium of life, sort of playing yourself, and then you're now playing a character. I remember I took a directing course once, and they tried to say, what are the 2 words that you can distill theater in? 2 words, and we all said so many different things. Time and space.
Wow.
It's a different time and a different space, and within that space.
Yeah.
So you get transported too.
Yeah.
But, it was remarkable. Yeah. So that went well?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, after all said and done, it was a great experience, and just to have those experiences, it was fantastic. But I got to work with great people over the years. I think Samantha has a picture of me and Donny Osmond, and
he called you Salty.
There, he called me Salty.
And there's your husband?
Yeah, there's my husband Kevin, and me and Donny. That was backstage. We went to see his show, and we were invited to the opening night party, and we went back. I love the man. And there's another one, I think, Samantha, me and his sister Marie Austin. Let me tell you this story. Look at me. I'm
about flop sweat.
In my bio, you have to write a bio for the program. So when people come see the play, they open up and read some of your credits. So I said, I'm so happy to be doing this play. Well, first of all, the play was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Wow. And at the bottom, the bottom of my bio, it said, and I really can't wait to meet Marie Osmond. So we did the play for a year. I had to sign a year contract. And about once a week, Donnie would knock on my dressing room door and he'd say, Avery. He goes, Marie's here. And I went, Donnie, F off. I mean, he's not here.
He would be kidding you because he knew what a crush you had on her. He knew
what I wrote in the bio. So every week he would come, Avery, Marie's here. So about 8 months into the run, he goes, he knocks on the door, he goes, Avery, Marie's here. Well, every language, every word under the book, every swear word, I cursed him to the day. And in she walks. She goes, where's Avery?
Oh, my God.
This is the picture. I was out of the shower already. I was clean. And if you can see, my shirt's drenched.
Yeah.
I went into such a flop sweat.
Wow.
But it was really fun meeting her.
Amazing. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
I remember meeting a cool man, Alan Alda.
Yeah.
Got to do a movie called A New Life.
Yeah.
With Anne Margaret.
Oh,
and Alan Alda. And Alan Alda's daughter was in it, Beatrice. I got to play her husband. I think, Samantha, you have a picture of that. There you are. There's a scene. I was in several scenes with him. What a thrill, first of all. You meet, you see Bye Bye Birdie, and there's the one you grew up with.
She was you had a crush on Anne Margaret. I mean,
my God, how could you not?
Boy, that opening scene, if people haven't seen this movie, Bye Bye Birdie, the opening montage of her singing the title song is, she's 17 or 18 there, and she's so beautiful.
A classic.
Sexy,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, did you tell her?
And Alan Alda was such a cool guy. He wrote it. He directed it. I mean, he'd rewrite it. He was up at 5:36 in the morning and finish at 8 and back the next day. But I remember he said, "Come on up." I had dinner with him once, and he's so erudite, exactly what you think. And he said, "Oh," the next day he called, "We're going to the Science Center. Why don't you come with us?" And I was so nervous also and scared. And my cousin, who lived right above me, had asked me to play squash. So I said, you know what, Alan, I'd love to, but I have to play squash with my cousin. So thanks anyways. I was so scared. But I got to be in the movie and meet him, and he was really cool.
You've also worked with Michael Landon.
Michael Landon, that was in a Highway to Heaven episode. And Lou Ayres, who was in it. This is to talk about. Lou Ayres is a man who, in the 1920s, there was a movie called All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh, sure, great Western.
Yeah, and about World War I, and he was in it. He was in it, and then as well as Dr. Kildare. So I played his grandson. It was a great part. But Michael Landon, what a sweet, kind man. And it was wonderful. We got to shoot that away from LA in a place called Morro Bay.
Yeah.
He's also as kind and nice. Had a lot of the same crew as the Bonanza crew.
Wow.
And
very cool.
Was a great guy.
Yeah, it's nice to work with those stars. You know, it's it validates you a little bit sometimes. You think, oh, here I am. Maybe I'm good enough to work with these people.
Yeah,
you know?
and the work is the work. You try to make it authentic and real and honest.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I got to work with Elliot Gould, from MASH. I did a play called Rumors with him, and I did a national tour of Sunset Boulevard with Petula Clark. Remember Petula Clark? She sang Downtown and Don't Sleep in the Subway. And
love that.
Every Sunday on curtain call day, because it was a 3:00 show, so there was no evening show, she would come downstage at curtain call, and she would sing for the audience Downtown and Don't Sleep in the Subway. People just came because they had a crush on Petula Clark. They loved her, Wow. And Gary Sandy from WKRP in Cincinnati, and those are fun experiences.
Yeah, and it's so much fun to be honest. The last 13, 14, 15 years we've been at this.
Yeah, we started people
with the Green family because I went to school with Kevin Green, and you went to school with Carrie Green.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we had this idea, we went of starting a Jewish theater company. We got together over lunch, and we thought, who can help us at least strategize and figure out how to do it? So I went to Kevin and asked him if he could help us. He said, well, let me look around. Let me think about it. Might be somebody. And he came back and he said, I think we found somebody. I think we're going to do it.
Yeah, wow.
And we were over the moon. And they're such a generous, passionate, wonderful family.
Wonderful family. Couldn't do this without them.
No.
And but I mean, the people that we got to meet also on our journeys at the Herald Green, Hal Linden from Barney Miller.
I got to play golf with him when he was in town. He was such a cool man. He played. So talk about people with effort, with endless energy. He would do the show, which we did at the Winter Garden, and then after the show, he would perform jazz because he's a musician first,
right?
With I think flute or the at a club on because we did it downtown,
right,
on Front Street,
right.
The man just had energy to spare. It was incredible. And who else did we work with?
Marion Ross, Mrs. C from Happy Days.
That was so cool, and I got to go with her. This was really cool. Throw out the first pitch at a Blue Jay game.
Oh yeah,
that was so cool because you got to go into the bowels of the stadium, and I got to have a hot dog with her prior.
Yeah,
so we grew up in the '70s with that show.
You know what was amazing? I remember she was telling us the story that she never got any royalties.
Oh, only
Henry Winkler and Ron Howard got royalties. Anson William, Donnie Most.
I didn't realize there was a discrepancy in the cast even.
Oh yeah, and Tom Bosley and her and Donnie Most and Ralph
and Aaron
Anson Williams.
Yes,
they never got royalties from the show.
Wow.
Even in all the marketing stuff, and there was pinball machines with their images on it. But I think they got that rectified only in the last 4 or 5 years or 10 years since we've known her. She was 80 when we met her.
That's someone who also is
Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin, really cool guy. He brought his son up.
Yeah.
So that was really neat to hear him sing too. And
Joel Gray, you said, and
Joel Gray was really cool.
Yeah.
Hear him sing.
Yeah.
But a few others who also Theodore Bickel, who was in Sound of Music.
He was the original Von Trapp in the Sound of Music.
Yes, and they had to come up with some Austrian song, and he said, "Well, there's one I know, Edelweiss," and then they included it in the play.
Yeah, they needed a song apparently for the second act of the Sound of Music, and he was a folk singer for many years, so he knew. I don't think they wrote that for him. It's not that he knew the song.
Oh, I see.
Wrote it for
they wanted to get one,
and because he was a folk singer, and everybody thinks, first of all, that's the national anthem of Austria, which it isn't.
Right.
And it was so prolific, and it was great to meet him too.
And you don't know all the worlds he's been in, because I saw him in Twilight Zone and stuff, but also watching a Bob Dylan retrospective, and he's at all those early concerts.
Really?
Peter McKell.
Yeah.
He was a huge folk guy.
You still get a chance to act the odd time. Do you enjoy those experiences when you have them? Because you don't have a lot of time to do that running the company, but
I love it because my background was more film and TV, so there was a hole. And so when I get that chance, I love directing because it's new and different, and I got to do it a few times. But I also love acting on stage.
Yeah,
there's the purity of it, and I hadn't had the chance, so I relish that opportunity. What about you? Because you were fabulous.
well, I did a cabaret last week, which was great fun. It's
Yeah.
always nice, to do. I mean, I didn't want to do 8 shows a week of it anymore, but it's just nice to do those one-offs, which is great. And
Right.
I wanted to talk about your directing. If Samantha wants to show it next, I want to get the date right. We're doing a radio version. On Sunday,
November
8th. It's a radio version of Susan Sandler's incredible play and movie, Crossing Delancey. And you directed it. It'll be a radio play. So Samantha, it's a preview. If you want to roll that, that'd be, I'd love for everybody to take a look.
On Sunday, November 8th, the Harold Green Jewish Theatre Company invites you to enjoy the radio adaptation of Susan Sandler's romantic comedy, Crossing Delancey. A charming, sly, and heartfelt story exploring the bonds of family and tradition, the culture clash of Old East Side and New West Side, and the romantic benefits of a new hat. Starring Jonas Chernick as Sam the Pickle Man, Tal Gottfried as Izzy, Sarah Ornstein as Hannah the Matchmaker, Jordan Petal as Tyler the Author, and Teresa Tova as the Bubby. Don't miss Crossing Delancey, a funny story about getting serious.
Who's that announcer?
It's such a bizarre concept, a radio play, because it's that before TV, that's all there was. People used to have families used to sit around and listen.
Yeah, but you're right. But
Yeah.
I love it. I listen to radio plays in the car on XM radio. There's something really special and unique when you have to kind of meet them halfway. And so you imagine in your head the set and the characters. So it's as much theatricality as we can offer at this time. But people are a little zoomed out. So if you really want a great experience, you might have seen it with Amy Irving and Peter Riegert in the movie in the 80s. But if you haven't, it's a wonderful romantic comedy. And it is kind of neat hearing it and bringing your imagination to it.
Yeah. Am I echoing? No, good now.
No. And then, although after that, we have, you just did a cabaret, and then we have another wonderful performer that's going to perform for us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Amy Skye. She's a Juno-nominated singer-songwriter. She's written songs for Gladys Knight and for Olivia Newton-John, and she's very prolific. She's a really great performer, a sultry singer, and she's just an amazing performer. So that's on November 22nd. So that should be a really fantastic evening too.
Yeah, wonderful lady.
Yeah,
and a great opportunity. You can watch TV or do other things, but these are kind of cool events.
Yeah. And next week, our guest on this show is Mark Breslin.
Oh, right. I'll have to remind him.
Yes.
He is such a cool man. He started, founder, and has run Yuck Yucks for many years. But speaking to him, his career has taken him throughout the United States. The executive producer of the Joan Rivers Show. He is such a expert in the world of comedy. So I really look forward to it. So many comedians have gone through his club, and he's a remarkable guy. Also loves what he does.
Where did you know him? Where do you know him from?
You know what? I called him out of the blue because we were having a function, and we asked him if he could help us out, and he was extremely generous. I think he knew who I was, and I knew him. I might have called him before for something.
Wow.
But I got to meet with him and have coffee a few times.
Nice.
And I love comedy.
Yeah.
And to pick his brain is remarkable.
Well, when you lived in Los Angeles, you were very good friends with Howie Mandel at the start of Howie's career, were you not?
What is this, an interrogation? I was.
No, but I think it's a fantastic story because you went to see Howie's opening act.
in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, yeah. And who he was opening for?
With Diana Ross, which was incredible. I'd never heard a room crackle with energy. And just before, Diana Ross came out. I went,
wow.
Oh, the energy is like electric. I met Howie in Montreal.
Oh.
He was doing a bad movie called Gas. I was doing a bad movie called Happy Birthday to Me. So we had the summer in Montreal. So we got to know each other. Then we went. He got married very young to Terry Soyle, and we were friends for a while in Los Angeles. The sweetest, nicest guy.
Yeah.
I ended up doing a movie maybe 7, 8 years ago, and he was in it. He had one of the leads. I had a smaller role, but he made sure that he came on his off day to catch up with me. And so really, he's as nice a guy as you want.
Those are great. Those are great stories to hear, because sometimes you hear these big stars are just not.
Yeah,
you've had good experiences with most of the people you have met.
Oh yeah, Martin Short's brother-in-law used to write for the show Hanging In that I was in, and I got to see him a few times. I think this was early on in the '80s, and this was Hanging In. It was so much fun to do in the '80s. Lally Cadeau and Ruth Springford. 9
years on that series.
Yeah, and it was for teenagers, but it was a ton of fun. And but I got to meet Martin Short. He was the sweetest guy as well.
Was there any big star maybe that disappointed you? I mean, that you walked on thinking they'd be fantastic, and they. I don't think I had ever had that experience either.
No, I'm overwhelmed sometimes when you see somebody that the very first big part in a movie I had was working for John Huston. He was the guy of Treasures of Sierra Madre. Yeah. He looks and sounds like God.
Right.
Oh, and it was one of the worst movies ever, called Phobia. But it was such a thrill. And so that I was a little nervous meeting him. But you know what? Usually the people that are famous and so talented usually are equally as nice, wouldn't you say? Or there are exceptions, but
there are exceptions, But this, I think we're winding down, and the half hour went so fast, and I just hope everybody watching at home enjoyed the last half hour and not upset that Pat McKenna didn't show up, but he'll be back, and it's always a gas to share some time with you, Dave. And I know we do it a lot, but I really enjoy these times. It's nice.
I say this facetiously, but I say it with a full heart. You're my brother from another mother, so it's always.
So and likewise, my friend. So let's close. First of all, couldn't do this show without someone backstage.
Yes.
Talking the cameras back and forth. So Samantha.
There she is.
I love listening to you every Thursday.
Good. Well, thank you so much. It was great tonight, and I hope when you walk down the halls of Greenwin or anywhere, they go, "Isn't she that girl from that conversation?"
I'm that girl.
You're that girl.
Thank you so much.
Doing a great job.
Thanks again.
I'm so excited for your radio show, Crossing Delancey. Yes, I love podcasts. This is going to be so much fun to listen to.
Oh, great. We love it.
Thank you.
Love it. So let's finish, Dave, with the Greenwin lightning round, okay?
Okay.
The first question is, I know this, but do you have a middle name, and what is it?
I do. And does anybody like their middle name? Mine is Sheldon.
Sheldon.
Sheldon. And yours?
Martin.
Martin.
Avery Martin. Okay.
Dark or milk chocolate?
Dark.
Milk.
Okay. Fox News or CNN?
I watch both. It's horrible. Horrible.
Do you really?
I do. I go back and forth. There's two worlds. And it's too much. I'm watching too much.
There's no gap. It's either one or the other with those two networks.
Separate worlds. I know.
And
you?
CNN.
Yeah.
Favorite TV series of all time?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because there's so many good different parts of your life. I'll say Seinfeld.
Cool.
You?
I love Lucy. I think I've seen all those episodes 100 times. I know them off by heart, but I still tape them because they're on at 10:30 in the morning, and I watch them.
Oh my God!
Yeah, wow. It makes me laugh. Who was your teen idol crush?
Hey, I can tell you that immediately. Diane Lane. I loved her. She was in a movie when I was a kid, and I loved her. I love her now too.
All right, cool.
And you?
Patty Duke.
Oh,
I loved Patty Duke. I always wanted to meet her, and that's one of my regrets. Her and and Carol Burnett, I would always love to meet those people.
Yeah.
But anyways, Patty Duke, who's your?
Now let me ask you, who was your 2020 crush?
My 2020 crush. I love a Meryl Streep, but I would love to meet Nathan Lane.
There you go. Okay.
A bro crush on Nathan Lane. I just think he's a real cool actor. He's played all the parts on Broadway that I would love to play.
You're Canada's Nathan Lane. Well, we'll have to figure it out and get him up to be part of our.
I'm Brunel Street's Maple Lane. Nathan Lane. That's where I live. On Brunel Street.
There you go.
Yeah.
For my 2020 crush, I'm just reading the middle of a book, and she's so good, such a committed, wonderful actor. Sally Field.
Oh, she's great. Now that's a good book. I read that book also.
Yeah, really cool about her upbringing, but also her commitment to acting.
And, if you have one word for humanity, what would that one word be?
Patience.
Cool. Mine is hope. So
very good.
Good.
And those are the names of our two pets, by the way. So that's cool.
The first pet and our middle name. This was a great half hour. So thank you everybody on these Greenwin Suite events, Conversations with the Stars. We really enjoy coming into your living rooms, all of you. So tune in next week, next Thursday at 8 p.m. where our guest from the founder of Yuck Yucks, Mark Breslin.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Dave. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Samantha.
Thank you.